Hi everyone, I'm Chef Colette, your dough doctor. And in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make bread dough in food processor, which we're going to transform into baguettes. Really pretty, quick and easy, something totally accessible and that you can do in a couple hours, like 4, with a lot of hurry up and wait in between. So don't worry, you're not going to have to babysit this baking project. I am adapting this recipe from Julia Child's, our beloved Julia Child's Way to Cook. This is the dust jacket. I have the book right here. It's a tome, and when I first got it, no need to tell you when, I cooked my way through it. It's an awesome book. That's The Way to Cook by Julia Child. So when we make dough in the food processor, you'll see the process is a little bit different. A lot of processes going on. We have a food processor and we have a process for making this dough. And we're going to use the plastic dough blade, not the metal blade. The metal blade is great for lots of things, but not for making dough because it's going to actually tear the gluten. So you want to use the dough blade. And if you, the full-size food processor usually comes with this attachment, all right? Definitely the major brands do, like KitchenAid and Cuisinart. Anyway, we're gonna put the dough blade in. Oh, just a little BTW. When we use this, there does tend to be gunk that gets caught in here, gunk, AKA, dough. And so you wanna make sure that you clean that out. I actually use an old toothbrush to make sure that gets like super clean. Because if we don't get it clean, oh, it is just really gross. But it's easy to clean. All right, so the thing that's different when we make dough in the food processor is we're gonna throw the dry ingredients in first. So I've got bread flour, and I'm taking a liberty by creating a whole wheat baguette to give our baguette a little bit of health, a little bit more healthier than just bread flour, and also give it a yummy, nutty flavor. I'm adding bread flour, whole wheat flour, and salt, and then instant yeast. When we use instant yeast, we can mix it in with the dry ingredients, and I have the water right here, all right? So my DLC7, she is 35 years old? Yeah, she's 35 years old because my son is 36, and I got this food processor from Costco, $189. It was an epic, mwah, I love you so much, purchase. So still have it, and she is a DLC7 Diva. Sometimes you find these on eBay. Cuisinart does make newer models, as does KitchenAid, but this baby, man, she was iconic. All right, we've got all the dry ingredients, including the instant yeast in the work bowl. If you're using active dry yeast, you want to dissolve it in the water first, and our water is about 80 degrees, just cool tap water, totally fine. Not cold, just kind of cool, lower than body temperature, not hot, not cold, just right, 80 degrees. I would say 80 degrees is just right. So I have this facing you guys so you can see what's going on, but I gotta turn it around because I will screw it up if I try to do this backwards. Alrighty. So what we want to do is lock that into place. Now I can turn it around because I think I can operate it with it backwards. And we're just going to combine these dry ingredients. Okay, that's enough. Now when we are mixing in the food processor, like I said, we want our water cool room temperature because the motor is going to heat up the dough a little bit. Not dramatically, but we want to be mindful of that, all right? So with the mixer running, with the food processor running, I'm going to pour in the water. And we usually have to stop quick and scrape down. Now, I no longer have the original scraper. It's been 35 years, so it didn't survive, but a regular spatula will do. No worries there. Okay, so let's put this here, try to work as neat and clean as possible. Alrighty. Oh, God. Okay, now that we've scraped down, we're gonna mix this until it becomes a dough that is basically sitting on top of the blade and going around and around. So when it becomes a cohesive mass, we're gonna stop the mixer. And you gotta listen for it. There it goes. And we can see it. See it? Okay. We can see the side of the work bowl. This is the feed tube. This is the work bowl. This is the motor, or base as well. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, and I'm following Julia's directions, and I've made this hundreds of times, so I know her directions are perfect. We are gonna leave it for about 30 seconds with the container, just with it open, all right? And you can do a scrape and make sure, but I can show you that's how it's supposed to look, just like that. Everybody see that? Great. All right. So now that's about 30 seconds, no longer than that. And I do have to turn it because I will get turned around. And now we're gonna let it go around and around about 30 times. And then we're going to dump it out and get it set up for bulk fermentation. It's got to double in size, and we're just gonna see how it's doing. I can tell you right now, it's doing great. So 30 times around and around and around. Okay, let's go. Okay, ready? Just hit the on button. So it's gone around and around about 30 times, and that's what we want. And now we're gonna get it out of the food processor. I think in 2024, we are not using our food processors enough, and that's a shame. If you have one of these, not necessarily the DLC Vintage Diva, but a full-size food processor, know that it can be like your sous chef. It really can be awesome. So I just threw down the barest amount of flour, and we're just gonna knead this for about 30 seconds. And you can see it's a gorgeous little dough with very little effort. We can poke it. You wanna see a nice spring back. And then we're gonna set this up. I'm actually gonna use this glass bowl, and you have choice. You can grease the side of the bowl with just a little bit of olive oil or butter, or you can spritz it with a little bit of water. That's a good idea. That'll help it release without adding any, sometimes I don't like to use fat in a bowl for our dough doubling in size. If there's no fat in the dough, I got that tip from Jeffrey Hamelman. He is a legendary certified master baker. He runs the King Arthur baking program up in Vermont for King Arthur flour. And he always said, the fat in the bowl is the fat in the dough. But what do you do if you don't have fat? Well, I'm not gonna do anything. I'll use this to scrape it out. And I'm not a fan of pan spray, but if you've been watching me for any time, you know I kind of really don't like pan spray. I'm gonna cover this with plastic wrap and let it rise for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. I'm looking for it to be doubled in size. So it's been an hour and 15 minutes, and you can see that the dough has doubled in size. It looks really great. There's one more test though, because this bulk fermentation, this doubling of the dough, we don't want to rush. We want to make sure that it develops fully, but at the same time, we don't want overdevelopment. So we do kind of want to watch those times. But you can take a little flour on your finger and poke it, and if your finger indentation stays, we're ready to go. And one thing I like about the glass bowl is I can see all this carbon, trying to make sure you guys can see it too, all this great carbon dioxide gas activity. So this is perfect. and it also smells kind of yeasty, smells so good. All right, and then I'm gonna scrape it out of the bowl. And remember, I didn't do anything to the bowl, but with a good plastic bowl scraper, you can get it clean. All right, so now what we're gonna do, this is gonna make 2 small baguettes, and I'll be getting the baguette pan out in just a second. But what we're gonna do to start is we're gonna grab our scale and we're gonna weigh this dough, and we are going to divide it in half. Now in France, by law, baguettes have to weigh between 11 and 13 ounces. But we're not in France. So this is 649 grams. So that's gonna be basically 325. That was easy. Okay, let's see. Where are we here? Oh yeah. You want to be, you want to be as precise as possible. A little bit too much. Yeah, 1,324, 1,325. That makes our 649 grams. And it really, look at this, it's such a pretty dough. So now what do? We have mixed it, we used the DLC7, we proofed it for an hour, and not proofed, bulk fermented for an hour and 15 minutes till it doubled in volume. Now I've divided it in half. Well, we're gonna make baguettes, right? And we're gonna shape them into long strands. So we're gonna do a little pre-shaping action, and we're gonna shape these into like little cigars. We're not gonna round them. You may have seen that on other videos with bread making, but we wanna pre-shape toward the shape that we're going to. So if we're gonna do a strand, then we're gonna pre-shape into a cigar. And I'm just gonna show you, we're gonna just no flour down, it's not necessary. You can have a little right here in case it makes you feel better. I totally understand. And I usually have a spray bottle as well. I actually left it by the sewing machine, by the ironing, but that's okay. If I need it, I will get it. So I'm just pre-shaping into a little cigar right here. Let me make sure you guys can see that, because I don't have an overhead camera at this time, but I am working on it. If you guys like these videos, then I'll make sure I have the right camera equipment to get more angles. All right, so here what we're gonna do is I just sort of pressed it into a little square. I take the top edge and I'm gonna fold it over, just kind of press down. And then I'm going to just sort of, then I can pick up the dough from here and just fold it over. And that's it. And then we're gonna cover these and we're gonna let them sit for 10 minutes, all right? And set a timer too. They sit for too long, they're gonna get gassy because that yeast is still making carbon dioxide gas, because that's what yeast does as it feeds on the sugars in the flours, well actually the starches in the flours. And we don't want this to form a skin, we don't want it to get too gassy, but we need it to relax. We need the gluten that we activated in pre-shaping our dough to relax before we shape our baguettes. So 10 minutes, set a timer. Alrighty, so it's been 10 timed minutes, and I can feel that the pre-shaped baguettes, they're a little bit more flexible, and the dough still feels really great. They're not as tight, so we can go ahead and we can shape our baguette strands. Now I'm a big fan of a baguette pan, and this one is non-stick, so I don't have to really do anything to it. If you have a baguette pan and it's not non-stick, you want to just brush a little bit of oil on it. Could be olive oil, vegetable oil, and then you can also bake these on a baking tray lined with some parchment paper. All right, so what I'm going to do is get this one out of the way, keep it covered so it doesn't form a skin, and I'm just going to press down, press out any gas, take the top edge, fold, and push, and then kind of karate chop it, and then fold that over, flip it up so the seam is facing you, and pinch, 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 pinch. Okay, so that looks good, right? All right, so now how do we get it nice and even? And we want it the length of this pan, which I'm not quite sure, but I think that's about 14 inches. So I don't have to do too much. I just need to stretch it out a little bit. But we don't want to pull it because that would make the gluten, the gluten is what we developed when we mixed our dough and then when we pre-shaped our dough. We don't want it to go all crazy. So what I do is I put my right hand in the center, and if you're left-handed, it'll be left hand, but for me, right hand, left hand, and then just roll. Just roll and let your hands slide off the ends. That's it. And that's gonna fit nicely, seam side down into the baguette pan. Let's do that one more time. So again, just press out any gas. And then we're gonna take that top edge, fold, give it a little karate chop. That creates surface tension, all right? Fold it over again, flip it up, pinch, 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 pinch. Again, we're not pulling it. We're just gonna coax it into shape by right hand, left hand, and gently. You can just see my palms are guiding it, not pressing down too hard. And then just let your hands fall off the ends. That's it. And then here's our seam. That's pretty obvious. So that's gonna go seam side down, and there we go. And then what you wanna do is cover this, not too tight, with a piece of plastic wrap. I'm gonna actually put mine in my broad and tailored proof box, and then we are going to let these rise 3/4 of the way. They won't double in size, but they're going to get nice and puffy, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like when they're ready. Our baguettes are proofed, and you can see they're about, not double, about 3/4 of their original size. I have my spray bottle here, and I'm gonna spray the surface, and then I'm gonna slash. And I'm gonna use, we need to slash because there's gonna be carbon dioxide gas, a byproduct from the yeast feeding on the starches in the flour. I mentioned that earlier. So we're gonna do a little bit of a slash so the excess gas can escape somewhere. That's why baguettes and many breads are slashed. So I'm gonna use my serrated knife because just about everybody has a serrated knife, and I'm gonna use the center of the knife, and you guys can see that I'm at a really strong angle, and I'm just gonna cut, 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 cut. Now, these are not terribly long, so I'm not gonna get the classic 5 slashes. I'm gonna do one plain, and then this one I'm gonna put a little sesame seeds on because that looks kind of cool. All right. And then again, same angle, slash, 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 slash. And we're about a 1/4 inch deep, okay? I'm gonna come in again and spritz. So we have a nice crust, just gonna a little lighter spritz so I don't displace my seeds too much. There we go. Kind of really wet the surface of the dough. The oven is preheated at 425, no, sorry. The oven is preheated at 450 degrees. I'm gonna load these in, and we're gonna bake them 20 minutes at 450. Gonna drop the temperature, bake an additional 5 minutes. Your oven may be different, but we will see when they're finished where we're at and how long it took. Well, that's it. Our beautiful baguettes are out of the oven, and time-wise, my oven heats pretty evenly, and I do have a pizza stone on the bottom rack to equalize the temperature. Any questions about that, you can put them in the comments below, and I'll explain what I do. So that helps regulate the temperature and keep it even. So 450, 20 minutes, and then I drop the temperature to 425 for an additional 5 minutes, and they are perfect. Beautiful golden brown crust, The spritz, the good spray that we gave them, that worked out well. We have a nice crackly crust. So yeah, this worked out great. Again, to recap, the recipe was Julia's baguette from The Way to Cook, Julia's baguette recipe from The Way to Cook using the food processor, and I adapted it to be a whole wheat version. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel because I will be uploading more tutorials in the coming weeks. That's all for now. Thanks again. Happy baking.